Live from Television City in Hollywood. Starring in tonight's production of Climax.
Cheers. Merry Christmas.
Merry Christmas. We just watched the 1954 made-for-TV Casino Royale. We're planning on sort of going through the Bond films. It felt amiss not to also include this first screen appearance of James Bond and do our drinking game to it. We won't explain the rules, but the rules will be down below. And the rules this time, we thought, it's got none of the cliches of James Bond, this is its own thing. This absolutely killed us.
We decided to include another one every time he's called Jimmy.
Jimmy, I still love you.
And just so you know, this was 55 drinks in 49 minutes. And I think 54 of them were because of Jimmy.
Hello, Jimmy. Jimmy, it's lighter.
They also use the word Bond a lot.
Now they choose Mr. Bond to take me on,
Bond.
and your Mr. Bond is very lucky, and
Bond.
And Mr. Bond has
Bond.
card sense, and I don't like it.
I have no idea what Climax was, because Climax was some drama series that was on TV in the USA and was obviously 30 years before I was born.
And I think one thing to its credit is that it is live. You know, a thing that they did a lot in drama back then. But it's kind of fascinating. All this dialogue they're saying, they got to get it right. All the cards they're showing, they got to get it right. It adds an element of interest.
I think that was a feature of television, particularly in the 50s, because I know Coronation Street, when Coronation Street was first broadcast, that was broadcast live.
The patent medicine man calls Thursday. Now you'll have to watch him. He could sell sand to the Arabs. I'll remember that.
Barry Nelson has to do a lot of heavy lifting with his lines in this, which is probably why he doesn't emote at all during the whole thing, because he was just trying to remember his fucking lines, because he had about 1,000 of them. The thing was 49 minutes, and he spoke for about 40 of them. I think you come into this having, if you don't know anything about it, you know he's an American interpretation of the character, and he's referred to as Jimmy Bond. And you expect something absolutely abysmal. You don't get that. You don't really get much of a character. There's not really a lot there. It isn't, I wouldn't say it's bad, but it's obviously not good. It just isn't really much of anything. It isn't any kind of Bond you know from the films. And it can't be any kind of Bond that you know from any of the books, because it's so brief. You only get it for 40 minutes, and most of that time he's sat at a card table playing cards. Unfortunately, as I say, Barry Nelson sort of has this expression of just sort of slight confusion. He kind of screws up his lips a little bit. Slightly underwhelming, but by no means awful performance. It's just kind of a bit of a nothing.
I think early on as well, he didn't know what to do with his hand, so he does this a lot, like as if he's got the very end of a fag, very end of a cigarette butt.
He's a real skinflint. He's going to get every bit out of that cigarette. Jimmy, haven't you finished? No, it's alright, still going. Picking up.
Oh, wait, there's one.
Yeah.
Got another. You pointed out that, of course, he is the...
He's in The Shining, yeah. He interviews Jack Nicholson for the job, and then he shows the family round the Overlook. But do you think if you'd seen this in 1954, let's say you hadn't read the novel, you might well think, actually, well, as a central performance to hang the rest of this show around, it's actually not too bad.
I think if I'd watched this in 1954, I would have gone, oh god, all that card stuff was boring. But that was quite fun. I'm looking forward to the next episode of Climax that isn't about cards. Well, the story is Casino Royale. I mean, it is fascinating that there have been 3 adaptations of this book, and they couldn't be more different if they tried. I mean, it's mental.
Yes.
Music lover.
I'd rather rewatch this one than the 67 comedy version, if for no other reason than it's shorter.
Well, nobody's perfect.
This is 8 years before Dr. No, and you begin with something that actually, remarkably, kind of foreshadows the gun barrel sequence. You get a kind of point of view gun barrel assassination attempt on Bond himself. Weird that it doesn't quite work, because the first scene is somebody shooting at Bond from about 30 paces and missing.
Well, the gun is completely facing the wrong way.
He's absolutely miles off. He's pissed or he's blind, I don't know. I guess they wanted to begin literally with a bang. It all falls kind of flat because somebody sort of comes over and says, "Oh, that chap just shoot at you?" And Bond stood there with his hand in his pocket. And he says, "Yep, well, I'll never catch him now. He's just run off."
Tried to rob you, sir.
They tried to kill me. Well, I'll never catch him now.
Look at that, he's 20 yards away. I'll never catch him.
And then everyone in the casino seems to have heard it and know about it, but not left or any worried, carrying on with their night, going, "Were you the fellow who was shot at?" "Yeah, but he didn't get me."
Aren't you the fellow who was shot?
No, I'm the fellow who was missed.
People are so relaxed. There was a shooting outside. "Were you shot?" "No, he missed."
Well, to be fair, he didn't seem that bothered at the time. He didn't even take his hand out of his pocket.
Do you think one of the reasons they picked this novel to adapt for Climax is that it is basically set in one space? So it was cheap. You know, we've got our set and it's done. It's in a casino.
I guess they just happened across this British spy book, this kind of pulpy, exciting, pretty popular British spy book, and thought, yeah, we'll do that.
The story is Bond has to beat Le Chiffre at cards, and it's Baccarat. And I don't know how to play Baccarat, and watching people play Baccarat is confusing and boring.
Good. Six at the bank. And 3.
Le Chiffre is working for the Soviets, and he's gambled away a lot of Soviet money, and he's got to win it back. That's relatively true to the source material. It's all reduced down to basically one scene. The bit in the middle of the book, the middle of the movie, where it's in the casino.
They've also condensed some other things. What's interesting is Vesper, the character, completely vanishes, but now we get Valerie Mathis. They've sort of combined two characters
simultaneously. Untrustworthy double agent and also love interest at the same time, all rolled into one, which actually I think it works relatively well.
Linda Christian is pretty good in the role. She didn't have a lot to work with, but I thought she worked well as the Bond's former lover and someone he would later drop in a bin in Lima or wherever they were.
In the Eon Casino Royale, you have Mathis basically as a commentator. So if you don't know the rules of poker, Mathis is always there saying, "There's 20 million in the pot. He has to get this card to win." So you know it's easy to know what's going on. It's the idiot's guide.
Bond will have to go all in to call his bluff.
This, I think they tried to kind of clue you in beforehand. But it's this bizarre scene which just gets interrupted again and again and again and again. It's part expository dialogue and it's part explaining the rules of cards. And kind of none comes across particularly well, because there's a strange thing where they're trying to act cool. So every time somebody comes across, they go, "Oh yeah, what do you think about cards? Yeah."
I'm attached to Station S, British Secret Service. We're working in conjunction with the Deuxième Bureau and your own chaps of Combined Intelligence Agency in Washington.
Oh, well, it seems that we have a good many friends in common.
Yes, doesn't it?
Now, are we gonna? Oh wow, what a night last night was.
The end result is that I understood the expository dialogue, but I was so completely clueless about the rules of the game.
That's 3. Well, there's no enough. I asked for another card to draw a 6. That makes 9 in all. Now, if the banker has 9 in it as well, it's a tie. Otherwise, we start all over again.
That's ingenious. Nearest to 9 there.
Yes.
When it begins, the actual Baccarat game, my mind, I just...
I did not care.
I think Peter Lorre as Le Chiffre, he just has interesting screen presence as it is, and I think that comes across again. So I think he's a pretty good Le Chiffre.
He's the best thing in the episode by a pretty wide margin, I think. He looks a little bit like he's phoning it in, but like you made a good point about him coming across as kind of inherently a bit cowardly and sort of creepy, which works for Le Chiffre.
They do set up that he has 3 razor blades for cutting.
Carries 3 razor blades for slashing purposes.
Le Chiffre always has 3 razor blades and 3 elderly guards with him.
Which I think they tried to pay off at the end, but the climax of the TV episode all happens basically off screen.
But the climax that you do see on screen is in a toilet.
Yes. James Bond's first climax in a toilet.
James Bond is tied up in a bath, and rather than a rope hitting his balls, Le Chiffre has some like pliers, and he does something to his toes. So he's either like twisting them a bit, or he's pulling the toenails out, like pulling out nails, like in Syriana. And then James Bond uses Le Chiffre's razor blade, which Le Chiffre never uses himself, to get out, and then just shoots everyone.
It's slightly underwhelming. I mean, I guess there's a sense that there's only so much you can do on television in the mid-50s, I suppose.
Well, we were looking at the time left, and there's like 30 seconds left. How are they going to wrap this up? And like, I think they were just on it because it's live. James Bond just gets his phone out and kind of goes like, "Call the police," ba-da, ba-da, except without the theme, and that's the end.
Call the police.
I could only speculate that they ran out of time, but it certainly looks like they did.
Well, there's this really long sequence. The lighting crew have to like light up James Bond as he like unscrews the number of his hotel room and then hides a check behind it, and it goes on forever. And maybe that was just went on forever, and they were like, we have to cut the whole climax to this climax episode. the drinking rules to this, the Jimmy absolutely killed us. Because everyone's going Jimmy, 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 Jimmy. And then when Le Chiffre has him in the bathtub, he's just going Bond, Bond, Bond.
Mr. Bond, 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 Mr. Bond.
I'll bet you'll love it.
Not expecting this 50-minute thing. We thought, oh, we'll just sort of watch this and there might be a few drinks and just talk about it. Bloated beyond belief. We were belching for about 50 minutes straight during this.
Oh gosh, I'm sorry, excuse me.
This is an interesting artifact.
Really enjoyed watching it, and I mainly enjoyed watching it because it's a curiosity. As a piece of TV history from the mid-50s, it's very, very entertaining. It isn't Bond. It isn't Bond. It's Jimmy. It's another character. But I enjoyed it as a strange, odd little curiosity. Probably not much more than that.
Bond fans, they don't owe themselves to watch it, but it's worth giving it a look, but just don't expect too much. Just expect cards.
Also, if you take a drink just under every minute, that hour will fly by.
Oh, it didn't fly by. It hurt. I'm so bloated.
Yeah, I really am. So, yeah. That hour will crawl by.
Not only did this episode end in a toilet, but I think my evening is as well.
Yeah.